For anyone who isn't familiar with the concept, a recursive translation is when something is taken from one language, translated to at least one more, and then converted back to the source language. The results can be quite interesting. Anyway, let's go.
Toguro returns. After rescuing Yukina and defeating Toguro, Yusuke spends some time with Keiko in the city. However, when a large construction explodes, Yusuke finds Toguro and has a conversation with him. It turns out that Yusuke and Kuwabara didn't actually defeat the Toguro brothers because they were pretending to work for Sakio, and now Toguro wants Yusuke to participate in a tournament called the Dark Competition. Made up of a group of greedy mob heroes, Toguro convinces Yusuke, who then gathers Kurama, Hiei, and Kuwabara into his team and aims to qualify for the tournament. The Dark Tournament begins. Team Urameshi boards the ship and the preliminaries begin. The masked fighter is the one who fights while he blasts demons away with his shotgun, sparking a mutiny against Urameshi's crew on the ship. The group then starts fighting, defeating many demons and even killing a few by the time they reach Hanging Neck Island. When they arrive at their hotel room, they are greeted by two mysterious figures from Team Rokuyukai, who will be competing in the first round of the tournament. First Affinity. Botan, Keiko, and Kuwabara's sister Shizuru arrive at the tournament venue to watch the showdown between Team Urameshi and their first opponent, Team Rikuyukai. Koenma is also there, and since he's tired of being called a kid, he takes on an adult appearance to impress everyone. Once everyone is seated, Rinku, the colorfully dressed kid who beat Urameshi's team last night, stands up to compete in the first match. Since Yusuke seems to still be asleep, Kuwabara takes the first match first. The game begins, and Rinku shows incredible speed by rolling lightning bolts around Kuwabara. However, thanks to Kuwabara's training, Rinku's moves are quickly understood. He hits him with a devastating blow, and Rinku appears to fall. Still, he stands up laughing and tells Kuwabara that he was just playing at first. He reveals his true weapons, 8 yo-yos, 4 in each hand. He sends them in front of Kuwabara. Kuwabara shows off his newly improved weapon, the Twin Spirit Sword. Flower of Blood. Rinku, left hanging in the previous episode, throws Kuwabara to the ground, ready to deliver the finishing blow. Kuwabara shoots his Spirit Sword out of his hand in a last effort, saving himself and preparing to counterattack. He fires his yo-yo again because of Rinku, but Kuwabara reveals that he can now use the Spirit Sword. After both attacks hit home, both fighters are knocked out of the ring. The announcer says that fighters can only be out of the ring for 10 seconds, and the count begins. When Rinku arrives just after 5, Yusuke, who is probably still asleep, cries and asks Kuwabara to wake up. Angered, Kuwabara stands up and confronts Yusuke. At that moment, Rinku stops healing and uses his yo-yo to hold down Kuwabara, preventing Kuwabara from returning to the ring. The announcer finishes the count, and Rinku has his first victory. After a while, the second match begins. Roto versus Kurama. Kurama continues his attack, but as he prepares to deliver the final blow, Roto soon reveals his nasty trick, a device that, when activated, tells the demon brothers to kill Kurama's mother. Not wanting to endanger his mother's life, Kurama is forced to stop the attack and allow himself to be defeated by Roto. Tired of the torture, Roto raises his foot and tells Kurama to lick the slime. But Kurama refuses and threatens Roto by pressing a button. Surprised, Kurama tells him to go ahead and stomp on him. Roto, suddenly unable to move, raises his hand. Kurama reveals that he has thrown a seed of death at Roto, which will soon blossom from his body. Roto begs for mercy, but Kurama simply replies, no. The seed of death sprouts and Kurama is victorious. Dragon of the Dark Flame Game. Hiei faces off against Rokuyukai leader Zell, destroying the stadium with his explosive attacks. Hiei must resort to an incredible technique that could take his own life, summoning the power of the dragon. The heroes stumble. Yusuke leaps out of his sleep, ready for his final battle with a new warrior named Chu. He is rude and disrespectful, claiming to be the true leader of the Rokuyukai team. Deathmatch Cutting Knife. With their mental energy depleted, Yusuke and Chu struggle as a team to win the first round of the Dark Tournament. They agree to settle the matter in a knife-edge deathmatch, an intense and life-threatening battle arena. A day of waiting. When his rival hits him with a loose cannonball, Yusuke realizes that even quiet times on Hanging Neck Island can be dangerous. Meanwhile, Hiei deals with the aftermath of a deadly dragon attack. Earnings. The second round of the tournament arrives, and Urameshi's team must face off against Dr. Ichigaki's fighters, who have a habit of decapitating their opponents. Will Yusuke become the doctor's next guinea pig? Eyes under the mask. During a 3-on-3 battle, a teardrop in the Masked Warrior's hairdo offers a great insight into the hero's true identity. But since Kuwabara refuses to fight now, there isn't much time to consider the consequences. Destroying ambitions, the path of light. It's clear that the Doctor's human experiments are being carried out against their will. As Yusuke prepares to put them out of their misery, the Masked Warrior steps in and proposes a strange plan. Masters of Disguise. 1 minute after Yusuke wins the second round, the Faceless Tournament Committee makes a shocking announcement. Team Urameshi's next match begins immediately against Team Masho, 5 demons covered in black cloaks. However, due to a scheme by team owner Masho, Hiei and the masked fighter are captured before the match. They are trapped in a powerful force field by a witch working for Masho's team, disguised as a nurse. Kuwabara is seriously injured, and Yusuke and Kurama are left to fight the whole team alone. Kurama says he will eliminate the first 3 heroes, so the first opponent is Gamma, a master of makeup. He disables Kurama's arms and legs with his makeup attack, chain makeup, and a whip comes out of Kurama's hair like a snake. Kurama's stand. Okay, a quick recap of the last episode. Kurama furs his limbs, but used spiritual energy in his hair when he slashed Gamma with the rose whip. And just like in the last episode, Gamma tries to hit Kurama by poking the wound, making blood splatter everywhere. Just before dying, Gamma tells Kurama that his blood sealed his spiritual energy. To make matters worse, you have the next member, Toya, is ready to fight to avenge his dead teammate. Toya attacks just as Gamma's first spell ends, and Gamma is able to move, but his energy remains sealed and he's in bad shape. Kurama spends his time desperately trying not to be killed by Toya's attack. He finally comes up with a plan to defeat Toya, injuring himself to plant one of the death plant seeds in his body so that it can manifest as a weapon. Accidental revenge. Kurama loses consciousness, and Bakken beats Kurama to death. Koto announcer tries to count on 10 to stop the match, but Bakken ignores it and throws him out of the ring. Just as Bakken is about to kill Kurama, Risho, the team's leader, tells him to stop. After all, Yusuke was ready to fire a spirit weapon directly at Bakken if he tried to kill Kurama. Kurama is then thrown out of the ring. Bakken is declared the winner. Yusuke then steps into the ring to confront him. Bakken uses his sweat technique to cover the entire arena in mist, making him invisible to Yusuke. Bakken manages to land a few attacks, but Yusuke barely takes any damage and fires his spirit cannon into the field, dissipating the mist. As Bakken goes full out, Yusuke drives his fist into his ribs. Before he can do any more damage, Bakken begs Yusuke for mercy, saying he got caught in the middle of the fight when he defeated Kurama. Jin the Wind. The episode starts with Jin looking at the island in the air. He falls and flies next to Yusuke. Yusuke turns and punches him in the face. He tries to fight back with a kick, but misses. Gin uses his signature move, Tornado Fist. It's a tornado that literally swirls around his wrist. The fist goes for Yusuke, but the force of the fist pushes him back. Yusuke engages in hand-to-hand combat. Gin blocks everything but his punch. He leaps into the air and recovers. Yusuke regains his composure and fires his gun. Gin spins around him to avoid it. Meanwhile, Botan realizes that Yusuke can't fight at a long range. Koenma worries as Gin uses the wind to attack and defend. Jin throws another tornado punch. Yusuke doesn't budge. When Gin steps away, Yusuke fires his spirit cannon at the Maelstrom. There's a huge explosion. Yusuke is taken back to the medical tent. Hiei tells him that Gin blocked the tornado fist, saving both their lives. Reversing the decision. The episode starts with Jin in the air, ready to kill him with a double tornado punch. Suddenly Yusuke says, "It's time for something stupid." His body's enveloped in spiritual energy. Botan, Kuwabara, Kaiko, Koenma, everyone is surprised. Then Jin attacks with the first tornado punch. Yusuke somehow gets hit. Jin yells, "No one can catch a tornado!" Yusuke drops a punch, neutralizing him. Jin throws a second punch, and Yusuke catches it with his foot. The tornado fist is also nullified. He yells Spirit Wave, and a punch full of blue energy catches Jin's stomach, and Jin is thrown into the air. The masked fighter explains that the Spirit Wave is like Yusuke's shotgun attack, and he must have learned it from Yin. Yoshiko appears in the stands as a surprise, but when Shizuru says, "Let's move," suddenly a light appears in the sky. Jin's body falls into the stands. Koto counts to 10, and Yusuke says, "I'm the winner." The theme is love and death. This episode starts with a fight between Risho and Kuwabara. Risho defeats Kuwabara, who cannot even use the Spirit Sword. Outside, Shizuru, Yoshiko, Botan, and Yukina try to go back inside. The Guardian Devil won't let the four back inside, so he shows them getting their human asses kicked. If Toguro is not in sight, more guards will come after them. Yukina has a flashback to the kidnapping incident, but Toguro lets the four of them go. Team Urmeshi wants to win because he wants a rematch with Yusuke as Sakio promised. Kuwabara eventually gets cocky and forces Risho to show his ninja strength. Risho is the master of the universe. He raised his finger and shook the ground. Risho uses his clay armor technique, covering his body in clay armor. He leaps into the air and crashes into the ring like a giant meteorite. Kuwabara refuses to get down. The Masked Warrior revealed. After speaking with Keiko, Yusuke confronts Botan. He tells her that the Spirit Beast will hatch soon. Koenma scares the two of them and shows Yusuke a giant egg. Koenma reminds him that if he's not careful, the egg will eat every part of his body. The egg hurts, but no one knows where the beast is. They look at Yusuke and see the beast. It's a little blue bird with big, fluffy ears. Everyone makes fun of him. The next day, the team tries to outdo the competition. Team Urotogi takes on Team Goki 6 in 2 minutes. Only Hiei and Kurama, who are badly injured, watch the fight. Kuwabara tells them to get Yukina treated, not knowing that she is Hiei's sister. She mentions her quest, and Yusuke and Kurama start mocking Hiei. Then Team Toguro appears. There were Toguro and his brother, as well as a masked black man, Raven, and a man in armor, Vui. The crowd cheers them on. Then Yusuke and the mask fight. He says he would be a better leader than Yusuke. Yusuke's final test. Genkai tells Yusuke that his final test is to kill her. Yusuke reconsiders. He meets Genkai in the cave and says he can't. She tells him that was the first part of the process. She wasn't going to give her power to someone who would kill her. She reveals that the source of her power is the spiritual ball. It fires a glowing ball of energy. Yusuke's test is to absorb him. He agrees to the condition, even though the experiment could cost him his life. He says yes. At first, he doesn't feel anything, but then he crumbles and it hurts. The semifinals start in a new ring. Team Urameshi loses 2 members, Genkai and Yusuke. They face off against Team Urotogi. Hiei and Shishi Wakamaru agree to choose a dice game. The first match is Hiei versus Makindaro. Hiei destroys the sword. Makindaro tells him to act. Hiei holds up Makindaro's severed hand. Makindaro shows off his special move, Axe Blade Fist. Hiei is too fast and stabs him in the head. Meanwhile, Genkai watches Yusuke suffer in the trial. Battle of Mount Hiei. Yusuke is still in the middle of the Spiritual Ball Genkai absorption test. After a while, Genkai realizes that this is too much for Yusuke. He tries to take the orb back, but Yusuke takes it back. He wants to finish the test. Back in the ring, Shishi Wakamaru rolls the dice. He lands on Kuro Momotaro, clearing space for Team Urameshi. Hiei volunteers for the fight. The 2 combatants appear, and Kuro asks for Hiei's sword. Kuro places his blade and slashes. The game begins. Kuro takes out something called a steam blind from his belt and covers him. Kuro inhales the steam coming from the sphere, and hair begins to grow from his body. Here is the first beast's armor, the monkey armor. Hiei tries to attack with his sword, but the sword breaks into 3 pieces. Kuro punches him several times and slams him into the wall. Kuro explains that the body remembers the pain of being attacked, and the evaporating bullet is a catalyst that makes the body immune to attacks. Many faces, many shapes. Hiei continues his fight with Kuro Momotaro, who has just transformed into the Phoenix armor, the beast's second armor. Kuro decides to show off his transformation into the wolf armor, the 3rd strongest armor. Kuro fires off a final steam ball and transforms into enraged wolf form. He pulls out the broken blade, and Kuro laughs, telling him that if his sword didn't work on the 1st armor, how would it work on the 3rd armor? He fuses the power he has saved for the Dark Flame Dragon into the sword, creating the Dark Flame Sword. Kuro flies up and attacks him, and Hiei kills him in midair. Next is Urashima versus Kurama. Hate is a little boy struggling with a pole. He starts swinging it in a circle, and Kurama does the same with Shepherd Rose. Legendary Bandit Kurama Yoko. With Urashima Rei and the transformed Kurama Yoko trapped in the ring, the real battle begins. Yoko eventually appears and unleashes an attack called the Tree of Death. Yoko Kurama asks Urashima Ura to tell the secret of Boxy Dune. Ura says he doesn't know, and that he only joined Team Urotogi because Shishi Wakamaru promised him a lot of money. Yoko finds out he is lying and threatens to kill him. Ura finally starts telling the truth. She says she's not even Urashima, and doesn't look like Kuro Momotaro or Makintaro either. They were together when Shishi and Onji appeared, and just as he was about to say something else, a sword flew into the ring and hit Ura, transforming him into a wolf creature. When the smoke clears, we see that it was Shishi who was wielding the sword. Jury then declares Kurama the winner. As soon as the smoke clears, Kurama returns to his normal form. Turning point. Kuwabara begins his fight with Shishi Wakamaru. It is a duel between an energy sword and a steel sword. Shishi is clearly the better of the 2. They continue to fight until Shishi releases one of 2 special items called the Cape of No Return. Shishi throws his head around Kuwabara. He falls through the dimensional portal of the ring used before the semifinals. There, he finds Botan, Ushiko Yukina, and his sister. He lost. He leads them to a new ring. Meanwhile, they roll the dice again to decide the game. Belongs to Team Urotogi's Free Space. Team Urameshi's Masked Fighter. When Hiei tries to take his place, he magically appeared behind him and stopped him. Curious about his true identity, Shishi cuts off his mask. Shishi tries to dissuade them by saying that he will fight the combatants using the mask. However, Toguro intervenes and the committee decides that there is nothing wrong. A new chapter of the semifinals is about to begin. Genkai's power. The battle between Shishi Wakamaru and Genkai begins. Genkai is very weak because he gave Yusuke his spiritual power through the spiritual wave sphere. However, Genkai has much more information than Shishi and sometimes lets it be known. Shishi then decides to use his second item, Banshee's Shriek. Shishi is overjoyed that he will become famous if he defeats Genkai with his sword. He then shows the audience the power of the chorus of 1,000 skulls, killing many people. Genkai can avoid it. And in another chorus, Shishi uses yet another new sword power, the Cage of Death. Genkai and Shishi, surrounded by an energy barrier. Shishi commits suicide with an attack that pours spiritual energy into the sword. When Genkai grabs him and knocks Shishi down into the cage with an explosion of spirit reflection, we see that Genkai has transformed into his younger form by stealing Shishi's energy. Suzuki Challenge. In the final match against Team Urameshi, Genkai defeats Suzuka, an old demon who has many tricks and specials but is not very powerful. Meanwhile, Yusuke absorbs Genkai's Reihai Dama and recovers, but it promises to give him immense power. Team Yusuke has qualified for the final round of the Dark Tournament. Now Team Toguro must try to do the same. Biggest rival. Members of Team Toguro easily defeated other teams in the semifinals, demonstrating their strength. Genkai's death. 50 years ago, Genkai and Toguro were teammates, and after fighting their own Dark Tournament and emerging victorious, they were bitterly disappointed. Urameshi Yusuke arrives at the moment his teacher is killed, and attacks an enraged Toguro but receives a devastating blow. The final tournament against Toguro is about to begin, but Yusuke must find a way to stop something like this from happening again. Overcoming the pain. Just before the final match of the Dark Tournament, Yusuke's master, Genkai, is killed, and Yusuke loses all of his spiritual powers. Since then, Yusuke and his team have been training hard for the upcoming battle. Suzuka, a recently defeated member of Team Urotome, helps out by providing 2 extremely powerful but unstable weapons in the hope that Toguro's team will finally taste defeat. The beginning of the end. The final match of the tournament is finally about to begin. However, the rules stipulate that each team must compete with 5 members. Since each team can only have 4 fighters, 2 competitors will participate on each team regardless of the outcome. Who are the 2 new fighters? What can they bring to the team? The Monster Within. As the finals of the Dark Tournament begin, Kurama faces off against the mysteriously charming yet dangerous Karasu. When Kurama believes this is his only chance to defeat his otherworldly rival, he transforms into the equally powerful and ruthless Kurama Yoko. Things seem to be looking up. Will Kurama's transformation be enough to defeat Karasu? Yoko's magic. With Karasu able to withstand Yoko Kurama's attacks, the wicked members of Team Toguro are ready to win. Taking his life into his own hands, Kurama prepares to sacrifice his own life energy as a final chance to defeat the demon. But with no life energy left, Kurama can only stay down forever. Under Armour 5. The Kurama vs. Karasu match ends in a disappointing end, with Team Urmeshi emerging victorious in the Dark Tournament Finals. EA tries to bounce back from the setback in the ring with 5. But will the power hidden beneath 5's armor be too much for him? Dragon Saber. EA's strongest attack, the Dark Flame Dragon. But 5 can turn the dragon against its master. Was he destroyed by his own power by consuming Hiei? Shadow of Old Man Toguro. During the Battle of Toguro, Kuwabara is informed of Genkai's death. Kuwabara defeats Toguro with true courage, and the Sword of Trial cuts the demon in half. The arena is filled with horror as the evil Toguro rises unharmed from the arena floor. Sakyo's proposal. Kuwabara's battle to Toguro's brother ends in a bitter end, and Yusuke is forced to have a grudge match with Toguro's younger brother. But before that match can even begin, Team Toguro's plot reaches a climax with a surprising proposal from Sakyo and an even more surprising reply from Koenma. Yusuke vs. Toguro. The final battle between Yusuke and Toguro finally begins, and everyone is on the edge of their seats, at least everyone who wasn't melted into their seats by Toguro's spiritual energy. Yusuke unleashes the power he inherited from Genkai in a huge explosion of his spirit weapon, but it will be enough to defeat Toguro once and for all. Toguro's full power. Yusuke reveals to Toguro that he's not fighting at full power, and the spirit box is removed and his power is reduced. Finally, the all-powerful Yusuke unleashes an attack on his opponent, but Toguro is also at his peak, aiming for Yusuke's strongest spirit blast. Yusuke's despair. As Yusuke lies unconscious on the middle floor, Toguro teases the psychic detective. Toguro sucks the souls of the spectators, enraging Yusuke and exerting his full power again. But Toguro soon realizes that the best way to challenge Yusuke is to kill his friends. Toguro's wish. With one of his friends lying dead on the arena floor, Yusuke reaches Toguro's level. To protect himself, Toguro exerts himself at 120% of his power. With no energy left, will the fighter survive and claim the prize? Go out with a bang. As the Dark Tournament draws to a close, Yusuke must deal with the loss of his best friend to Toguro. As Sakyo begs Koenma to take his life, the evil billionaire reveals his ultimate plan to destroy the entire stadium while everyone is inside. Toguro's wish. Team Urmeshi prepares to leave Hanging Island, winners of the final Dark Tournament, and return to the mortal world, leaving their fallen master and friends behind. But somewhere far away, a chance meeting between the two former allies seems to foreshadow what will happen when the most unlikely men uncover a terrible secret.
It's all the same thing. Thank you for the registration question?